Take it away.
Welcome to another episode of I Know What You Watched Last Week, where we review / just talk about the films we've watched.
It's a horror movie review show. You should know this by now.
And we've had a few requests over the last episodes, I suppose, to get you on camera as well. Apparently,
so here I am,
I'm not
in
enough.
all my glory.
It's going to be a big face shot there.
Yeah, it's all me.
Yeah, so if this doesn't get, more subscribes and likes, then he's out again.
Imagine if we got less subscribers after showing my face. That'd be pretty cool.
So, without further ado, let's tell our audience what we watched.
Well, I wanted to start off the new year with a cinematic masterpiece. So, scrolling through online, I came across The Brotherhood 2, Young Warlocks. Showed it to Karin, and then you were like, why are we starting on number 2? And I said,
I need to watch in order.
I said, good question. I said I couldn't find Brotherhood 1, so I just thought number 2. So we searched. Luckily, we found number 1. So we started off with just The Brotherhood, followed by The Brotherhood 2, Young Warlocks. And there was a third Young Warlocks movie. In fact, I read there's actually 5 spin-off sequels to The Brotherhood. But by that time I had my fill of Warlocks, so I went with The Witch, and we watched Book of the Witch from last year, 2024.
That was from last year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
So let's get into your rankings. Number 3, all the way to the top, baby.
It's real. This is... How do you differentiate one film from another?
What, you don't think that The Brotherhood 2 Young Warlocks was different to the first one where there were vampires? And for no reason I could see, they were no longer vampires in the second one.
I guess it's so hard. I would go with number 2, Young Warlocks, in third place.
Yeah, agreed.
Then I suppose just about The Brotherhood in second, and
agreed.
And the Book of the Witch.
Book of the Witch.
Book of the Witch gets the gold, which is probably the first time it's ever received that. Not that these are the worst films we've ever watched, by any means, but again, I seem to say this a lot, but my head was shaking for a very long time.
You are a head shaker.
I just can't. I literally can't stop myself sometimes when there's something so baffling happening on screen. I couldn't stop. I even mentioned to you, I was like, I want to stop, but I can't stop. It's like watching a car crash.
So we should start off with our bottom pick, which is The Brotherhood 2, Young Warlocks. Where do you want to start with this one? Let me get my trusty notes. I knew what order I was going to put them in, and I was fairly certain you do the same, so they are in complete order.
I think, I don't know how you were thinking of talking about it. I hadn't planned it, but the thing is, how do you talk about a lot of the second one without the first one, even though, as you said, the story is not really...
You must understand that when I came across The Brotherhood Young Warlocks, the description of the genre was simply horror. No cerebral, no nothing, no chilling, no eerie, just straight horror.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what I was getting into, but...
What's bizarre is that...
Was I pleasantly surprised?
It was essentially softcore gay porn
without any penetration or sexual...
But the thing that was weirdest about it was that it was softcore gay porn, but it was parading as not. Like these topless, unnecessarily close men were still being like, oh yeah, if you were a chick, I'd do you. Yeah. It was so confusing. I
imagine that the director had his hand down his pants most of this movie. In fact, if you go onto the website imdb.com, it says like plot lines, and one of the plot lines literally says male underwear.
The amount of toplessness in both movies, that is something that carried across.
Well, the first note is man boy nipples. Because we open up in The Brotherhood And
2. Or you
the
talking about the
Brotherhood.
first one?
Oh yeah, I have got number 2. Yeah, no. So yeah, oh yeah. Actually, I've got some great questions. Actually, yeah, we got Naughty Marcus. He's introduced
Oh,
as a
God.
bad boy with a voiceover, but you don't need the voiceover because he pulls out a pack of smokes.
And he's got sunglasses on, I believe, and he's got long hair and stuff.
Oh yeah, because only bad boys smoke. And we're told he's a bad boy, but it's not long before he's being bullied, is it?
There's no character continuity in either film. The characters are introduced to you as one type of person, and then in the next scene they're just completely different.
The introduction of Naughty Marcus straight after that is the man nipple scene, and this is shot in, it's supposed to be an American high school, and all I know is that at my school we weren't allowed to be topless, yet in this movie there were like 3 or 4 topless young boys just throwing a football around a la The Room. It was more ridiculous than the football throwing scene in The Room, actually. And one of them scopes a guy bending over on some stairs in some really tight shorts, and it was after this 2 minutes in, I was like, this isn't just a horror, is it? And it kind of stuck with that whole thing from there on in. It wasn't subtle.
And the thing
it was
is,
not subtle.
I kept thinking with this movie, I was like, they do obviously like to show attractive women in a lot of horror movies, and they do certain things like, oh, check her out, she's so hot. But even with the roles reversed, if we were exchanging some of these topless men for, just regular dressed women, it would still be over the top. It was so over the top. That's why it was like softcore porn. It was just...
Are you kind of saying in a roundabout way that it was refreshing to see young lads with their nipples out rather than the ladies?
Yes. It went maybe slightly beyond what I think worked, because it didn't make sense with what they were saying. But then they'd also be like, in both movies, I think.
Do you think...
When we see... I'm very excited by man nipple at the moment, let me finish. When we see the first, perfect specimen of a guy with his top off throwing a ball or stretching or something, in both of them you get, men being like, hey, check out that guy. He's a perfect specimen. Yeah. And stuff like that.
The vampire gang come out.
Creepy.
They come around the corner in their, their tie's not done properly because they're bad boys, and they're wearing sunglasses. And the introduction of their walk towards this guy stretching in shorts must last about 2 minutes, just 2 minutes long, with these guys walking in slow motion with the sunglasses on.
It's unbelievable that these movies are actually quite short. They're like an hour and 20.
Hour and 20 minutes, both of them, yeah.
And they felt like they were going on forever because, like you just said, he did that a lot. He would take one scene which should last maybe 10 seconds and just stretch it out.
Well, like I said, he had his hand down his pants.
Yeah, he also has, in both movies, he has a scene of 2 guys and a girl, and it was very bisexual. And again, we're saying all this, and I've got zero problem with anyone's sexuality, but the way it was done in this was just so bizarre.
We're absolutely not criticising quote unquote gay cinema, because to me this is not gay cinema. This is just some.
Well, it didn't call itself that, because all they talked about was like, oh yeah, but if you were a chick.
No, but who isn't a fan of the camp movie like To Wong Fu, Priscilla Queen in the Desert, things like this? So the movies of like John Waters, even Hellraiser, written by Clive Barker. So that's my favourite stuff. It's not about that. It's just about how it was done. This was like about as gratuitous and suggestive as you could get. And it was suggestive of serious, I've got to say, SA, haven't I, on YouTube? Yeah,
I guess. Oh god, that's just brought me into another scene where they focused. It wasn't just a topless one this time. So, but I think this is in the first movie. Can I still say that, or should I say?
Yeah, I think it's I've got it in the notes here. So let's just make sure we're talking about the same thing. So we've gone through are you allowed to be topless in high school? I mean, we haven't really answered that. I mean, I don't think you are. And I've got the teacher loves sleight of hand when the leader of the group, turns the teacher on. She's teaching a class on witches and warlocks, by the way, which I don't know about you lot or you, but that was not on my curriculum at school. And yeah, what was the guy? I think the guy's name was Luke, but it's not Luke. It's a more foreign European look, Luc, because he's mysterious.
Well, I think that was another confusing thing with the teacher, because I believe there was actually some insinuation that she had something to do with it. She says herself at one point, right towards the end, I was sent here to stop you, or something along those lines. Obviously, nothing comes of it.
Let's get back to the man nipples for a second. You were going towards it, and I've got to check his name again. Naughty Marcus, not long into the movie, he's accosted in the showers by this fraternity, 4 guys in this fraternity, and they're all wearing jock straps. And they walk into the shower, and then they take off their jock straps.
Yeah.
And they start to shower, and one of them says something to Naughty Marcus, and he pulls out. What does he pull out from nowhere?
A pen, like
a pen.
Permanent marker.
And you ask the relevant question: where has he pulled this pen from?
Yeah, and I have to explain, because I thought about it for a long time through the rest of that film. Where was this pen hidden? Because all of these guys, including the victim, I guess, in this situation, have gotten stark naked, and we know this for a very clear fact because the camera would not get off their, like, I assume it's just where the genitals end, and then it's thigh, because it looked very high up. We saw loads of thigh, just one after the other, coming past camera into the showers. So we know they're stark naked.
Yeah.
And the showers don't have anywhere where you could, like, hide something. Unless you went in there in advance, knew which stall you're going in, you taped it in, you managed to untape it without noise. It's just, no. He hid this pen somewhere very mysterious.
I guessed it was between the flaccid penis and the testes. Lift it up in between and slash it down.
I still don't see it's how you
That's just what I
could
thought.
keep
Anyway.
it hidden.
Yeah. But then Marcus is saved by Luke. Luke walks in and he schools all the frat boys.
Yeah.
And he schools them by saying such things as cute ass and sexy lips. He calls these people. Because they want to write on his bum, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they were gonna
They're going to write,
mark
this
on
is my pussy,
on his
with an
butt.
arrow pointed down to it.
Yeah. And yeah, again, they kept referring to, like, oh, this is really horrifying because
This
we're
is only
all
10 minutes
straight.
into the movie, by the way.
Because we're all straight. But then they kept saying stuff like, I'm going to write it all over your cute ass.
Well, that's how guys in locker rooms talk. They know that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So anyway, after Luke saves Marcus, we then have the swimming pool montage of the young lads stripping to their underwear once more and frolicking in the school pool.
For completely zero reason.
Followed by a deep conversation where we have Luke say, "I'm a student of the soul, and I've gotten pretty good at it." Remember that bad boy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Luke gets the other boys to lick his tears, which is not a euphemism. I mean, I'm talking literally. He gets them to lick his tears, and they love it. They absolutely love it. It's like taking your first hit of, some Class A drug or something.
I wouldn't know that, but it was also I don't feel like you've done justice to the
I can't
the
really, can I?
frolicking.
The frolicking. Let's get back to the frolicking. The frolicking boys.
So you know those, like, a Girls Gone Wild type things.
No, I don't know about that.
You get chicks being ridiculously
I've
flirty.
never heard of that.
Here's a bit of water splash. Here's me flicking my hair back.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and it was literally that with these 4 guys.
Yeah, if they were in a bedroom, they'd be having a pillow fight.
They would, yeah. And then it goes all serious. It was so bizarre. I can't say I've ever seen boys be that nice to each other.
They go from frolicking in the
There
pool
was no, like,
to
fake
then
drowning
they
or
kill
anything.
someone. They killed a guy called Randall in the pool,
Yeah,
all
and-
off screen. Because again, this was listed as horror. Is there even a horror scene in there?
I can't think of a proper horror thing. I guess the idea of taking people over. Oh, and also, wait, this was the sins one, right? So after licking this guy's tears off his face, they had to break the 10 Commandments.
Well, hang on. I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, because after the tear licking scene and killing Randall in the pool,
Which they do / don't know about. That wasn't
Yeah.
very clear.
these guys are now the bad boys of the school. So we had the same scene again, except for it's these 4 guys playing topless football now, because they run the show. So to show that it's topless football time, and the other guys who've been ousted got to keep their shirts on, and no sports for them.
Dang it. Yeah, so as they continue to break these commandments, they, I guess, get more powerful or just more under the control of Luke. I'm not entirely sure. But my favourite one, personally, was the "Thou shalt honour thy mother and thy father."
And how do they do that?
I think it's the bad boy, smoking bad boy.
Marcus.
He's like up on the roof and he's got a framed picture of his mum and dad, and you see him looking at it like, and he just lets it fall and it crashes on the ground. And considering some of the other commandments are things like, murder and covetousness, or I don't know, they go through all sorts of stuff, but that one, they made it so like, look how dramatic this is.
This movie is deep.
And it was the least dramatic thing I've ever seen in a horror movie.
One of the guys called John goes on a date with the main girl. I've forgotten her name. But then Luke shows up at the doorway, and John is no longer interested in this date because he's mesmerised by Luke. And then that is when we get to the girl's bedroom, and Luke and John take care of the situation somewhat. With Fair Lady in the bed. And John is watching from the side, rubbing himself.
No, I thought that was a different girl. That's one of the bad boys' girlfriend.
That's not really important though, is it?
Well, yeah, because they
essentially... It's more important that there's two men in the bedroom with this girl, and John's just rubbing himself while Luke is...
Oh, God, that was weird.
That's what I'm talking about. The rubbing scene.
Yeah, you get this guy slumped down in his armchair watching... another
Luke
guy
take his trousers off.
And a girl, and he's like rubbing up and like playing with his nipples and stuff. It was so uncomfortable.
Nipple play, belly button play. And then he finally takes his clothes off, and he decides to get on the bed, and he takes off the lady's panties with his teeth.
And then the scene ends, because that was getting a bit too...
No, then Luke goes round to his side and starts pushing John's face into the girl's crotch and things like this, and he really likes it.
Yeah, he likes watching him.
Yeah. And then it's time for the third ritual where they've got to go and kill some people. So the headmistress gets killed.
I think that's the final one. They've gone through all these other commandments. That's the point. The last commandment that they have to break is murder.
What about the line, "You don't know the difference between Jesus Christ and Ricky Martin"?
Great.
That's one for the ages.
Again, who references Ricky Martin if it's not an LGBTQ+ movie?
Well, let's just fast forward to the end of the movie. The lady teacher who was teaching the class on witches and warlocks, she turns up at the end when Luke has, I think John, who really cares, by the throat with a knife. She manages to save the day, and then our heroes, possibly they're about to leave. Last scene, and one of them says, "Why do you say we blow this joint and join a public school?" "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me." So basically, private school is evil, and public school is where it's at.
Yeah, because Luke
if you're a warlock,
had them under his influence, and then the two mates were getting more and more drawn in, and they were completely under his control by the time the main guy was like, "No, I don't want any part of this anymore." And then when he killed Luke, his two friends came back and were like, "Oh."
For all the power that Luke had, though, I feel like he mostly used his powers to get guys to walk around in their Calvin Klein underwear. That was what he used his power for.
The wardrobe department in this also just must have had 100 pairs of just white pants.
White boys' briefs.
Yeah, they all wear the same underwear, which is really weird. Apart from Luke, his was black.
It was not a great movie.
No. Should we go on to the first one?
The originator.
I mean, we've kind of covered a lot of the things, because a lot of them happen in that one too. Oh, but one of our favourite things from both films, but it was introduced straight away in the first film, is the Psych Out.
Yeah, now the Psych Out goes hard in Brotherhood Part 1. Man-boy nipples, they've got a secret, lots of double entendres. And it starts off with a new tenant walking into some supposed jock's frat house.
Yes, their dorm room. They're sharing a dorm room.
And that's where the messing begins.
Yeah, this guy comes off as like...
check out his name.
"Don't move my stuff. I'm going to beat you in. I'm going to, don't touch my bed."
Yeah. "And if I gotta go here, you stay outside."
And then he's like, "Psych!"
Yeah, "Psych, dude! I got you!" Boo! Then they have a conversation for another minute, and then all of a sudden the guy goes serious again. He's like, yeah. And the guy gets scared, and he's like, psych!
Does it again?
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming, the second one, personally.
And with all these psych outs, it's not even a character thing.
Yeah, Chris has been psyching out Dan, originally. So 2 psych outs from Chris to Dan.
And Dan's supposed to be like some nerdy boy, but then in the next scene he's being all like bad boy with Chris.
Yeah, he changes character pretty quickly.
Like I said in the previous film as well, that you know, you're introduced to one character and it's different. But yeah, with the psych outs, it's not just him. You get, I think, at least 2 other characters throughout the film who do the exact same thing. They pretend to be in a certain like emotion or reaction to something, and then they're like, psych.
Does someone get psyched out by the axe guy who's guarding the party?
Yeah, with a polystyrene axe that's a bit chipped around the edges, but it's supposed to be some really intimidating real weapon. That was not the best.
Did I say that in Young Warlocks it was when they were coming around the corner with their sunglasses and looking at a guy in tight shorts?
Yeah, I was going to say that was the first one, wasn't it?
That was the first one. So
yeah, so our main guy, did you say he was Chris? Or Dan?
Yeah, no, Chris is the jock guy.
Yeah, so Chris...
And Dan is the guy with electric sideburns.
Chris is like a top-level swimmer, apparently.
He's got the body for it, because he's got his top off a lot.
Yeah, and the Dan, the nerd guy, keeps saying stuff like, oh, you could be this or you could be that, and Dan is like, I don't want to be.
Dan's not had a very good time at school, it seems. At one point he's even like, I didn't even get the chance to party. If I was you, I would have partied all the time and beaten that guy's ass and totally got with that chick. But I didn't even get to party.
He really wants to party.
Yeah, he wasn't given permission to party.
He wasn't invited to anything because he's supposedly a nerd.
Well, now his luck's changing. He even gets to talk to a girl. And when he gets to talk to the girl, he kind of just abandons her and just starts thinking about Chris. He's like, is Chris still my friend? I was like, you've been moaning about not being able to get chicks, and all of a sudden you're sitting here on a wall with a lady
date.
alone. And he's like, where's Chris? I want to see Chris. I love their psych outs.
It was just so bizarre, and I know you had a particular fondness for the woman's acting, didn't you? Not that anyone was...
no one was exactly stellar in this.
And you were convinced it was the same girl in both movies. Did you find out whether it was or not?
No, I didn't bother looking because I didn't care that much, but I don't think it was.
No, I don't think so. Just a similar type.
Where I've got again, there's frat boys in this one, so there's like an evil frat house, or let's say that the main guys are the evil frat house, and there's this other frat house who are just, you know, as Americans would call it, a bunch of douchebags. And when Chris first approaches our main female lead, she's surrounded by this other frat house, and they don't take too kindly to him just coming over there and, you know, taking their space. And they say things like they're wearing a pin. You see this pin? That means you don't mess with us. And right now, you're messing with us. I like that.
Yeah, it was about summing up the level of the script throughout both films,
Yeah.
actually.
And performance.
Yeah. But, so in the second film...
You're messing with us. You better know. We're going to pay you a visit. Yeah, we're going to pay you a visit. It's that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We mentioned about licking the tears and stuff. In this one, it's not as long-winded. You don't have to do all the commandments and stuff. You just have to give and take a bit of blood from each other, and then you're like becoming... Well, they say we're not vampires, but they're vampires.
Yeah,
they survive
they're
on
doing
blood.
exactly what vampires would do. And they're undead. You know, they can just survive forever.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was
Because we find this 100-year-old book, don't we? And it's supposed to be all tattered and torn or whatever.
Dan finds their, like, frat house book or something, and he finds the pictures of him all through there. But that didn't tie up, because I swear, like, he was saying, oh, I move around so that people don't notice. But then I was like, well, then why are you in all those yearbook photos and stuff?
There's also, I've written down, there's a conversation between Megan and Chris. It must be on their date, which Chris cuts. No, sorry, not Chris, because it's Dan on the date. Anyway, Chris...
They're both gone on a date with her.
Yeah, Megan and Chris have a conversation, and the word frat is just said numerous amounts of time. Yo, you hate frats? Yo, you know that I hate frats. If I even want to be in a frat, then why'd you join a frat, bro? Frat.
Yeah. Is there
Oh
any-
wait,
Okay.
there's a part where Chris and Dan are getting ready to go to this first party, and Chris is dressed like just some dude who's ready to get ready to go to the office in his little cubicle,
Yeah.
and he has the nerve to criticize Dan's style. They're both just wearing business suits, except for Chris didn't have the jacket on; he just had the shirt and tie, and the tie was like way down past his penis. Swinging everywhere. I don't know if that was like an imagery thing as well, considering the
I
kind of
didn't
movie.
notice.
And then when I get to like, we've mentioned the axe guy. This guy is guarding the front of the party.
One of
He's
the
on the door
vampires.
with an axe. Yeah, he's the guy that wears the PVC vest.
He has a
So-
lot of shiny PVC clothing
Yeah.
in this.
So
a lot
one of the bad boys has
of
a
shiny
PVC
PVC.
vest, and he carries an axe, which is clearly made of styrofoam.
Yeah.
It was not a good axe, and he does a psych out.
Yeah.
Talking
It's
of
like, I'm not going to let you in. Where's
yeah.
your invite?
I bought-
Psych, you're welcome.
I brought up the PVC. There's a part where the lead bad guy in this, not Luke, but
No, the lead bad guy in this is the one with the blondish,
I know,
shaggy hair,
yeah.
isn't he?
In the second one, the blonde guy is Luke, and in the first one, his name is. I've just written lead bad boy walking around. Oh, Devon. His name is Devon.
Yeah.
And Devon has massive nips as well, by the way. That's maybe why he got the lead role, 'cause he had the biggest nipples. Because there's a lot of
I
nip
think
game in this.
it was based upon they've pretty clearly, like, for both gangs, just said like, "I'll take your top off. Let me
Yeah.
see how ripped you are, and the more ripped you are, the higher up in the chain you are."
There's a bit where the frat are we still recording? Yeah. There's a bit where the frat they start messing with one of these new recruits to the vampire frat, and Devon comes out of nowhere and he sets his boys on the frat and he's looking on like really happy with the way that his frat's doing. And
Oh, it's because Devon, turns out, spoiler, sorry guys, turns out that Devon wants to take over Chris's body. Right? Yeah.
something about Devon's performance reminded me of the acting chops of the character Slade, played by Kelly Slater in Baywatch. When the way he was delivering his dialogue was reminiscent of Slade from Baywatch. Which brings me, did you prefer Bad Boy Devon or Bad Boy Luke? Who was the premier bad boy for you?
I definitely
two?
did prefer Luke.
Yeah, I think I'm going with Luke as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really didn't like Devon very much.
So who did you like? What character did you think was the sexiest? Have you seen Twilight?
I have actually.
See, I've seen no Twilights. So
a long time ago.
Would you say that this was this influenced Twilight?
Well, actually, one of the guys in the second one reminded me of Taylor Lautner,
Mhm.
which any fans of his will probably want to burn me at the stake for, but I say how I see it. And yeah, Devon actually, for a surprisingly long amount of time, doesn't take his top off.
But when he does,
And then when he does, I mean, this guy, I don't know how much time he's spending
Yeah.
in the gym.
is it
because
in
I
the
couldn't
two guys
take
in the
my
girl
eyes-
scene?
I couldn't take my eyes off of his breasts.
Yeah, they look enhanced, didn't
pillowy.
they? Yeah.
And the lighting, I mean, yeah, I could see why
So
suddenly, because
you're-
his face didn't really convey anything tough.
So you're saying that you prefer Luke as a bad boy, but you'd like to fall asleep on the chest of Devon because it's pillowy.
I just, I just think that Devon was kind of a boring character as well, whereas Luke, at least they were trying for some sort of like mysterious European something. I don't know, but
Do you want to kind of sum up what else we get here? Because I've got so many notes on you. We've got frat fight, satisfied. We have we have parties like this. Oh yeah, that's another thing. If you're part of the in frat, not only do you get all the girls have the best parties, but you also get the best grades. And they boast about that. We get the best grades. I've never heard of a fraternity
in a private school,
going on about
no,
the
it's
best
a bit
grades.
different.
And we also get the line, Sandy is as wet as a honey pot. And that's before Sandy gets on the bed, starts writhing and, putting her finger in her mouth like this and attracting both Devon and Marcus.
Yeah. Another thing this director loves to do, apparently, because he does it in both
He did
films
both
a lot,
movies. He did
was,
both movies.
There's this technique in filming where you cheat something. So you
Mhm.
might have a
No, I've
conversation.
heard of that.
might have a conversation from far away where two people are standing a distance apart, but then when you come and do a close double, you can't fit them both in the frame, so you need them to stand closer. And it normally doesn't look, you can't notice it, right? It still looks like, oh yeah, they're still a distance apart. In this one, it was like the opposite. He kept the framing super wide, but told them to go in. So a lot of them, when there's no reason, it's just like, hello, I'm going to do the rest of my scene right here.
Lick my tears. So some questions that I have from these movies for you.
Yeah.
We've asked the Luke Devon question. You've gone with Luke. What film was sexier? What one got you going?
Neither of them? I think...
No, you've got to pick one.
Okay, the one that went harder probably was the second one.
Is that the one with the guy stretching in his... No, that was in the first one.
No, that's the first one. The second one, though, has the shower scene where they've got, like jock straps falling and thighs close up in camera.
That was less sexual, more just straight out assault.
And...
Okay, so you're going with...
And they've got the frolicking in the pool.
Frolicking in the pool, yeah. So you find that sexy. Yeah. Personally, I think the guy stretching on the steps after 2 minutes, you know, I was taken somewhere else in that scene. Secondly, who is your favourite warlock? Out of all of them, you can have any 8 of them. I know the first lot aren't actually warlocks, the first lot are vampires, but we're combining. Did anyone stick out for you? I'm going with the PVC vest thug.
I guess I'm gonna just go with the swimmer guy, because he was probably the best looking.
Nice, Chris.
And that's how I base things.
You weren't it, Chris, with those man nipples. Do you like PVC vests?
They have their time and place. I don't know if I would have put like the cool gang at high school in PVC vest, but...
That brings me on to my next question. Would you like to see me in a PVC vest? Why not?
To me as well, PVC is definitely a smooth body kind of thing, not a hairy man.
Oh, that brings me to this.
You have to be smooth.
There is no representation for hairy warlocks in
Yeah.
this movie. Everyone is smooth.
Oh, that was it. At one point you turned to me like, why wasn't I cast in this movie? I had like a washboard stomach and stuff, and I was like, yeah, but you're way too hairy. Because these guys have zero hair. I mean, they're all like swimmers.
They have body hair issues. Pubes not our misuse. What other PVC attire do you enjoy?
What, just on anyone?
Yeah, just what general PVC attire do you like?
Yeah, I think you can
bodysuit
get dresses,
like Britney Spears.
Yeah, leggings.
How about just a pair of briefs made of PVC?
That could be hot.
Okay,
I guess.
hot. Wow.
Yeah.
And
I'm not talking about
my final
you
my
or
final
any man.
question is: the first time you saw me, if I were wearing a PVC vest, would it have enhanced your thirst for me?
I think that would have killed like any chance of us ever getting together, John.
So some other lady would have got very lucky with me and my PVC vest. I think that about covers Young Warlocks and Brotherhood 1, which is which number 2.
So it's the Book of the Witch.
Goes on to the winner, Book of the Witch. Now, before we get into this, we're going to do this a slightly different way. Just sum up what you think of this movie, kind of as quickly as you can.
What I think of it, not what it's about.
Yeah, not what it's about, just...
It, again, dragged, bad effects.
You're right, actually. Let's do what it's about first, slightly. So, yeah. If you want to... So if we go, you want to wrap this movie up into a nice, neat little package, how would you describe it?
Okay. There's a witch on the loose from the 1600s who needs people's lives to survive.
Stay young, yeah.
And we've got 2 security guards of an empty office building who get drawn into this witchy poo's life. And
the girl Victoria is
as a showdown.
searching out where the witch lives so that she can take her book and live on forever, essentially.
Yeah.
And now, so that's basically the gist of it. What did you think of the movie, just in general terms?
It dragged. I thought the effects were really bad. I thought...
Do you mean like the green flame, stuff like that?
No, like the way the witch looked, I thought was terrible.
Right.
Because it seemed like there was something like shiny bits to her and stuff that took away from it being real there in front of you. I was so confused. I was like, I wanna think that they've just done this with actual makeup, but it looks enhanced, which you should like. It looks bad in my opinion. It had good aspects to it, but then it just wasn't pulled off.
What if I told you this movie was made for $12,000, shot in 6 days, and only had 2 crew members?
What?
See,
wow.
I had everyone's gonna have things in movies that they dislike in terms of, so for me it was some of the really heavy dialogue and like the cliche ending. And I said to myself at the end of the movie, I'm gonna judge this movie on if it cost up to 50 grand, I would say really good job. But then learning that it cost 12 with 2 crew members, and the guy that directed it, I've got him up on my phone, I'll get him up in a minute. He wrote it, he directed it, he edited it, he did the cinematography. It's reminiscent, obviously, of our short of Heathen, which lasts half an hour, which we shot for about 30 quid, $30, and we shot it by ourselves with the help from a guy called Paul, who's sadly not with us anymore. And we shot it in our house. Did I just mention that? So for these guys to have $12,000 and pull off what they did, and considering all the other kind of movies that we've seen on I Know What You Watched last week, and we're not shy in tearing them apart, because if it deserves it, it deserves it. But I'm not in the habit of like tearing down this kind of movie. And something that I noticed after about 15 minutes is that I could tell straight away that the people that are making this movie and the guy that was directing it actually cared about this movie. I could tell that it meant something to them. It was just something about it which spoke to me as someone that's written Heathen and Heathen Part 2, that these guys really care about it. And they've filmed this on a Blackmagic Cinema 6K, which is just a very affordable camera, £2,000, something like that, very rentable at least. And to pull off what they did in 6 days with that budget and with those crew members, this, in my opinion, should be maybe the highest praised movie that we've ever done on I Know What You Watched last week. Because
you've literally blown my mind with that, and I've barely been listening to you because I've been going through my head.
As per usual.
No, I've been going through my head, and I'm seeing again all the things where I had like a problem with it, and I was like, why have they done that? But then you've got so, and I was thinking at the time, I was like, this is like something you do if you've got no time.
Yeah.
Like you just have to get it done, and it makes so much more sense.
The guy.
But I still cannot believe that. I mean, even just like take away the office thing, because like even though that was well lit, it's just, it's an empty office space. But what they did with the witch's cabin was really good. I can't believe they. Yeah.
I actually really liked the way that the witch was made up, personally. So, because I knew it was going to be low budget previously anyway. Not this low budget.
I mean, I can't believe they've done it. That's insane.
Yeah, the guy that made it is Joshua Soden. So he's done an incredible job. And the lady, the actress that played the witch, Ali Williams, she also did the costume design. So you've got that kind of working environment, collaborative kind of thing. And
incredible.
The things that I didn't like were just, again, like sometimes they so for instance, when Victoria goes out to the desert and she goes and steals the witch's book, she's followed there by her colleague August, the security guard, which we predicted was going to happen. It was obvious. But when he shows up, she's just seen the witch do this spell on this guy and killed him / brought him back to life. She's witnessed all this somewhat, at least heard it. And she's grabbed the witch's book once the witch has left, and August turns up at the door. And they just start having this kind of conversation like, whoa, was that a witch that I just saw? And oh my God, she's making him drag. So that kind of stuff was unrealistic for me. You could have just gone dead serious and not had all this. And then straight after this, they end up at the bus stop and the conversation like that kind of continues. It's almost like if you had just seen a witch perform a ritual on a dead body on the floor, or a live guy, and killed him and brought him back to life, you wouldn't be acting that way. And that was my big kind of like bugbear with the movie.
Well,
it was mostly that. But then again, I'm the dialogue king, as you well know, what I've got in Heathen Part 2, and also Lived on Rock Harder. Sometimes I find the problem that
he is the dialogue king.
I'm comparing a lot of the movies to what we've got in Heathen, and what we've got in Heathen is like, it's more like the Godfather / Lord of the Rings of horror. I'm not messing around with it. So not everyone can have that kind of genius to kind of pull that kind of thing off. But I'm just that guy. I've got it with the horror, I've got it with the comedy, and possibly with the animation as well.
If you're done with your King of
was anything that I
Dialogue
just said
speech.
untrue?
No, but I was trying to say something as well.
Thank you.
Just proving your point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, I found through a lot of the interactions in this movie that I found the way they were acting and what they were saying was quite bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought it was strange, both of the security guards, when they got freaked out, went immediately to, like, angry, scared, rather than just being like, hey, you know, if you're here, you're not supposed to be, like, just show yourself and, you know, nothing will go wrong. Instead it was like, if I find you, I'm going to kill you. And it was like, oh, that's a bit bizarre. And then when they were having conversations with each other as well, because they had a lot of those in their little room.
I didn't particularly enjoy
the
it
emotions
when they
were
were...
weird, because actually
when she was being serious, I thought she was fantastic.
Incredible.
Yeah, she really was.
She
really
was
blew me
so
away.
good. And the thing is as well, because when it really caught on how good she was towards the end, when it's, again, one of the things I was like, well, they wouldn't do this if they had more time or a bigger budget.
Absolutely.
It was shot very much like just self-tape style. Like, it was one long continuous shot without movement, just her having this monologue into camera.
She has a couple of monologues as well, which has to pull off, doesn't she?
Which can look so
bad.
awful. Like, you'd be surprised at how terrible some of the best actors can look when you've just got just a still camera just doing nothing on you. But she did such a good job for that. Like, really impressive. And yeah, none of the performances were bad. I just found some of the choices a bit strange. And again, this is now explained by all the pairing up on roles, etc., etc. But the cinematography at points was, they clearly, like, were running out of time.
When the cinematography was good, though, it was really good.
Yeah.
So the opening, the thing that drew me into the movie was the trailer, and it opens the way that the movie opens, where the witch, the sun's going down, I think, and she's dragging a body across the desert, groaning. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Then it had like a close-up of the witch's face and so forth. So I thought, give this a go. And that opening scene where she's dragging the body across the desert, I thought was, you know, good. And then to find out that it was the camera, I don't know what lens they had, but there were certain points. So, for instance, when we were watching Silent Night, and I was complaining about the constant flaring and how jarring the flaring was in this film. Silent Night had a $5 million budget. This movie had $12,000. The flaring in this movie was, it was quite beautiful. I paused the movie and pointed that little bit out at that time. So what they've managed to pull off with this is actually quite mind blowing. And personally, I didn't mind the movie. As I revealed to you quite recently, witches are the things that really, if anything scares me, it's witches. They just creep me out. And just her being a witch creeped me out in general. But one other thing I didn't like is when our main character would read from the Book of the Witch, or when the witch was casting a spell, they would just have this demon voice, and it doesn't suit a witch, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it was clearly augmented and stuff. But honestly, because I didn't look up anything, I didn't know anything, I knew it would be kind of lower budget. But there's no way on earth I could have ever believed that it was $12,000 if you hadn't told me that. So everything I was going to complain about, I kind of feel like, well, actually,
you've got to go the other way and almost commend it as how well they did. They had managed to pull it off. Yeah,
because that is crazy. I mean, I've been as an actor in short films where they had like $10,000 budget, and you end up with like 3 minutes of, you know.
And you see movies with the budget of, say, six figures, low six figures, and you look at it and you wonder where the hell has the money gone, because no one's putting a good performance, there are no good shots, yada yada yada. This movie didn't have that. It did have good shots. It had great shots. It had, you know, a few parts again didn't work, but mostly the cinematography was really great. There was a certain part now where you pointed out where our lead Victoria, she's talking to herself, I think, into her bathroom cabinet. This is after we just discovered that she's taking loads of pills.
Yeah.
And you said that the framing was off, and I didn't say anything at the time, but for me I didn't notice it because I felt like, because she was going kind of crazy at that point, I felt like the framing was almost purposeful.
No,
kind of like
I didn't mean off like that. I just meant it was flat and boring. Like, you just had just the flat cabinets behind her. Like, there was nothing, no dimension, nothing interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't personally
she has to
get
sell
that.
it herself. But again, all those things I now want to praise instead, because the lighting.
Yeah.
I think they did a great job on lighting.
There was a certain part where the witch is in the place where the security guards are watching over. It just call it like it's almost like a basement part of a car park, and you just see her shadow against the wall, and it kind of like gets bigger and bigger as she spreads out, and then this red light comes behind her, and that was all like right up my street.
I know, yeah. I knew that
loved
would
that. Absolutely, there was the bit that didn't, and considering now that we know what we're working with, the bit when he sped her up looked a bit
off.
And there's another bit where we had Victoria in like a box and the witch comes above her, which could be creepy, but it felt like it happened too quickly almost. And again, I'm absolutely not trying to criticize the movie at all. It's just that there were so many great ideas, and if you had more time and a bit more money, they would have pulled it off even better. I'd much rather this guy, I think Joshua Soden, I think his name was, I'd rather see this guy with a budget of 100 times that of his 12,000 than pretty much anyone who is kind of like established. You think about the guys that have done the more recent Halloween trilogy and the Exorcist Believer movie and the recent Scream movies. Like this guy, for me, I'd watch something that he makes over what these guys have made any day.
Yeah, we actually, another one we saw recently, there was a lot of potential, and again, it comes down to having the resources.
Yeah.
But with this one, yeah, I think my biggest thing, if I could change one thing to make it better, if I could have added one extra crew member, would have been someone to actually just concentrate solely on the camera and the shots, because there was a lot of just, still set up, shoot, get as much as we can because we're on a time schedule.
I like a still set up myself personally, but yeah, I do know what you mean. There could just be a bit more
time
flashiness
spent into like
to
where
it,
I'm going to put the camera and stuff. It was all quite straightforward.
Yeah. You'd be hard pressed to make a better movie than this on the budget and the crew.
I don't know how many people could possibly even come close to doing that. It's really quite mind-boggling. Yeah. Lighting and set design I thought were great.
Yeah, the beginning scene when the witch is dragging the body, when she brings him back to life, when the guy is under her spell seemingly, and he grabs a shovel, and they walk outside the building and he starts dragging the shovel across the dirt. In my head I already said, oh, he's off to dig his own grave. That's what's going to happen. There's a scene we've already mentioned where Victoria and August are at the place where the witch is in the distance, and you see the guy literally digging his grave. So I've already thought it just from gleaning. Then you see him kind of like in the distance doing it, but then you have the character August actually saying, "Oh my God, he's digging his own grave," and it's actually said like that, and that's the problem I have here. Like, you don't need to say it. You don't need to hit the audience over the head with that kind of thing.
No, there were still some like choices, like with certain
Leave it
aspects of the
unsaid.
script and certain emotions and certain this and that, where like there was definitely room for improvement, even with a bigger budget. I just think some of the choices with the script could have been a bit.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, personally, for me, as the king of dialogue and the king of writing,
God, don't start this again.
I with Heathen, I'm trying to completely elevate horror and take it completely seriously and mention it again. So like The Godfather, The Lord of the Rings, like it's a saga and it's all meant to be together, 2 parts. I'm trying to make horror better. I'm trying to deliver something that the genre deserves. And this guy, to his credit, he's given something that he really cares about and he's given it his all and he's pulled it off big time.
We haven't even really mentioned much about the inner dealings of the story, because something I found quite bizarre was so I still don't really understand how our main girl found out about the witch, because I thought there was going to be, like, she keeps getting flashes of what turns out to be her mother dying.
Oh, yeah. And remember her mother in the red light coming towards her. I'm gonna get you. Yeah.
And so we get all these flashes of that, but then I assumed that maybe like the witch had killed her mum or something, and that's why she knew about the witch and was hunting her down, and she was going to like get the witch's book to kill the witch. That's kind of what I thought this was going for. But then it turns out she's gone to steal the witch's book. I have no idea how she found out about her, but she's gone to steal the witch's book, and she's actually stolen it because she's kind of bad herself. So she's apparently so afraid of death
Victoria,
that she's willing to just commit murder to like however many people it takes. And also the other thing I thought was really weird was when she tells August all of this, his reaction is like, "You should have told me about it." And I was like, she's literally talking to you about how she's gonna kill a bunch of people so that she can live forever.
Yeah, again, for me, once again, the dialogue was a big down point for me in this movie.
And that made her so unlikable at that point. And obviously
she was unlikable towards the end.
She comes literally this close.
Killing August as well. Yeah,
her one friend. And
sweet August.
And then she's like, you know, she at the very last second, she's like, actually, I can't do this. I'm so sorry. I was like, it's a bit late for that.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going to forgive you now. Even though she then obviously is turned all the way around again and is all, you know, she ends up giving her own life actually to bring August back in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess she's kind of redeemed, but.
I liked it as well when the original witch, when she has her powers taken away and she sees August and Victoria on the floor, and she's back to her normal human self from say 1662, and she still utters, you know, I don't want to die. So she's been alive for all this time, hundreds and hundreds of years, and it goes back to the original reason as to why she's doing all of this.
I think it's quite clear, like, who, you know, with the idea of this, it definitely went into in depth the idea of death.
Yeah,
and afterlife and existence, and it was, you know, a lot of it was just dialogue heavy, and they go into all of this, and yeah, I like some of the things they said, and I think it's fair enough, and it's interesting to see both points of view, you know, someone who's terrified of death and someone who's kind of more accepting, but and for the budget, this has to be like the best thing I've ever seen, but if you disregard the budget...
Except for the Heathen short for $30.
Yeah.
30 quid.
If you disregard the budget, it had a lot of flaws.
Yeah, they're forgivable though. They've been given that short amount of time. I haven't seen so-called, you know, professional filmmakers do any better than this. People have been given millions of dollars of budget and haven't pulled off anything quite as close as or as meaningful as this.
Yeah, it's true. There are certainly, and I think in the past as well, a couple of the things we've reviewed, like I think I'm thinking currently of Killers, which we did like
100K.
Last time or something, which was again pretty low budget, and it was flawed. I didn't love it, but it had so many brilliant
elements
aspects.
to it.
Yeah, elements. So like with that filmmaking team and the duo behind this,
Yeah.
I would love to see what they could do with a bit more of what.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I could relate to it after finding out how little people worked on this. Still more than we had, but I could relate to it, and I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I know how time consuming it is, and to get it right.
And they got lucky with the acting as well. They cast it.
Yeah, they cast it really well.
Yeah.
They really did. I would encourage you to watch it, because even if you know, for its budget and stuff, even if you think it's, I hate rating films like a number scale, almost like 10 out of 10 is more a figure of speech, but if you're like, oh, this is a 1, it's a 2, it's not about that. Just check it out, because it's more interesting than, like we said, a lot of the other horrors that have come out, and people praise them, and I don't see why.
I just want to see where these guys go and see.
Yeah, well, you just hope that he gets a chance to do something with a bigger budget, you know, and do his soul piece, so to speak, much like
we
Heathen
managed
is
to
for me.
find The Witch's book, so hopefully, you know, it does well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it absolutely destroys Brotherhood, Young Warlocks, and
Did
Brotherhood
you happen
1.
to see the budgets for either of those?
No, I did try to look it up, but I didn't find it. I would
Not much
assume it was
info.
about $1 million, probably something like this, maybe more. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but it had like the kind of like slick porno look, didn't it?
I don't know.
You know.
I thought it would be quite cheap as well, but oh no, it's still fun.
It certainly looked cheap.
Yeah. And here's our cat asking for dinner now, I think.
Let's just see if I've got anything more important in the notes. No.
You want to come say hello? Yes.
Oh yeah, I did notice as the first guy that's in the, you know, the occult circle when the witch is doing her spell. Most of his writhing was just him lifting his crotch and pumping the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Morag. I think we're almost done. I'm glad I put that one in first place now that we've talked about it.
Yeah, I don't think there was any other real order to go into.
So, thank you for joining us, and even though I mentioned it before, I'm gonna do it again because we're YouTubers now. Hit like, hit subscribe.
I'm
and,
not a YouTuber.
And comment.
I'm an artiste.
And
I've been listening to some special music. I'm going to get a Heathen playlist together, and today it came from Avenged Sevenfold and their City of Evil album, which is almost as badass as the Heathen script.